They've continued to work and grow and implement their program and are setting the foundation for what they want to get accomplished here over the next couple of seasons.
I think one of the most intriguing teams this offseason is the Miami Dolphins.
The Dolphins have the capital to do whatever they want.
They're competing and building a culture.
I believe in team. I would say that. If you want to strive to do something great as a group, you got to work together.
You have a plan, you stay true to the plan, you execute the plan. The Dolphins, this is how you turn around a franchise, like this.
We're trying to build a team that's going to win right now, and we'll be very aggressive.
Welcome to the field, your Miami Dolphins.
We're looking for guys who are tough, who are smart, who are competitive, love to play.
They have landed some big fish. Love what the Miami Dolphins did. You're trying to build something there.
Patrick throws to the end zone. It is Parker. Darnold never saw the pressure coming, and he is leading. Sickie wide open. Touchdown.
Let's have some fun and play together, man. Win on three, win on me. 1, 2, 3, win.
If you can get a group of young men to band together, to believe in one another, to practice and prepare at a high level, then you'll win ball games.
Big man, touchdown, picked off by Bobby McCain.
What's good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we just came hard like that with the Flores preview and then our new intro. What's good, EM? What's good?
What is good, homie? Y'all see them goosebumps? Oh, my God. Every time I see it, it's doing it to me again. Fins Nation, what is good, baby? Let's get it, baby. Let's get it.
What's good, Fin Nation? As always, I'm joined by the Jason Taylor, my Zach Thomas. And you know what? We may change the audio. But that graphic is fire. What's good, EM?
Absolutely, bro. Man, I'm just chilling and enjoying this. Man, it's another lovely evening here in Dallas. I'm sorry, in Fort Worth, Texas, bro. Just chilling. What's good? What's up with you?
Man, it's another beautiful day out here. Low 100s. It's a pretty hot one. It's been hot all. It's going to be hot all week. People think we live in igloos out here, but that would melt. So it was about, what did I say when we talked a couple of days ago? It was about 108, 109 when me and you talked up here. So people don't expect that from Canada, but it does get hot.
Them triple digits. That sounds like Texas weather, bro. But it's about right now. It's about 85. Nice breeze. Nice sunset. Oh, it's perfect. Perfect.
Breathtaking.
Breathtaking.
Instead of the ceiling tonight, everyone gets a nice shot of some foliage and the sky behind it.
I hear you, Bet. I hear you. That's what's up. I hope everybody's being safe out there. Hope everybody's good tonight. And
for sure.
Yeah, man. Let's get into this, baby.
Bro, the craziness that is Patrick Mahomes and his 10-year extension. Here are the details, the final details. Patrick Mahomes, 10-year extension worth up to $503 million. It includes $477 million in guarantee mechanisms and the ability for Mahomes to have outs if guarantee mechanisms aren't exercised. Wow. That is a lot of cheddar, my friend.
Absolutely. Wow. We talked about this privately earlier. I did not think it would even, let alone get to 400, but exceed potentially 400 million. I thought maybe 350 max. But man, this totally blew me away. But what do you say to that? I mean, you got to look at it like this. This kid, he's going into his fourth year he's literally rewriting the history books in real time. This kid is literally rewriting the history books in real time. We've never seen a player perform at this level in his first 3 years. I mean, in recent memory.
Oh yeah.
So if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, kudos to him. I know it's a lot of money. I get it. That is, bro. Like you said, that's a lot of cheddar.
$500 million if he hits all the incentives.
Absolutely, but you got to look at it from this point. This is what, like we talked about this privately. If the Chiefs are willing to give this kid a contract of this magnitude, the revenue that he's generating for that franchise has got to be tripling that value. Has to be.
Well, what's the crazy thing too here? What's the largest career earnings for any football player in history is Eli Manning with about $219 million. This guy's set up already for $503 million to more than double it.
Yeah. And the kid, at the end of the day, this kid he is rewriting the history books right before our eyes. That's what he's doing. First year, okay, he sat. Second year, as a full-time starter, he threw 50-plus touchdowns in a year, got his team to the AFC Championship game. One was the unanimous MVP. Second year, as a starter, okay, he gets hurt. There's no doubt in my mind this year he would have been the MVP again, in my estimation, if he hadn't gotten hurt. So he would have potentially had back-to-back MVPs, okay, AFC Championship game, first year as a starter, second year as a starter, he wins the Super Bowl. How do you not
against a very good defense?
Against one of the best we've seen in recent memory. So how do you not, I get this is an obscene amount of money, but how do you not, from a Kansas City Chiefs perspective, how do you not make this investment in this generational talent that we're seeing rewrite history right before our eyes?
Yeah, because let's be real. That was the only defense in the NFC that was going to make that game close. As good as Green Bay's defense was last year, I believe they would have got blown out by Patrick Mahomes, bro.
I agree.
That was the only chance for that game to be tight was for the San Francisco 49ers to make it. They made it, and they still couldn't beat him. So now they added Javon Kinlaw. They're hoping to get back there. But like I said to EM privately, I fully expect 2 or 3 more Super Bowls for Patrick Mahomes before this 10-year contract is done. Well, it's 12 years because there's 2 years on the contract, and they're adding 10 years to it.
And we could literally, realistically reason, if D4 does not line up offsides in that 2018 AFC Championship game.
Oh, they win that game.
They win the game, and they beat the Rams in the Super Bowl. We can agree on that.
Yeah.
So we could have been potentially talking about a back-to-back MVP and a back-to-back Super Bowl winner. We could. Really. If he hadn't gotten hurt, he would have been MVP this year. So I get it's an obscene amount of money, but this kid is worth. If you're gonna give out this kind of contract, you want to do it in generational talent, especially at that position.
Well, and
again, this kid could be the best we've ever seen. And talent-wise, I'm sorry, go ahead, bro.
No, I was gonna say, and like DFS hobby right now, he makes the perfect right point. Mahomes makes players around him better, but the other thing too is guys got to understand, people. There's a new TV deal coming in, and the gambling money is going to be coming in. In 5 years, this could be a great deal for the Chiefs and a bad deal for Mahomes, especially if he wins another 2 Super Bowls.
I agree.
Because let's average it out. Okay, if you average it out, it's about 45-ish million plus incentives a year. If you average it out, you got to think about it. Dak Prescott's already out here asking for in the vicinity of $40 million. What are people going to be asking for in 5 or 6 years, halfway through the 12 years left that Mahomes is under contract for?
I agree.
The money he's making could be the norm in 6 years.
Yeah, that's true. Because the revenue, and we talked about
the only reason the cap is going up next year probably is because of COVID. But after that, it's going to go up.
It's going to explode.
Like $10 million a year, $20 million a year. The first year, it's going to explode because they're going to make up for the year before. And you got an echo on your side, EM.
Okay, what about now?
Yeah, no, I can hear myself when I talk.
What about now?
A little bit, but not very much. Yeah, I can hear myself. It's not as bad.
Is it manageable?
Now it is a
Okay,
bit more. It's a bit more manageable now, for sure. It was bad.
cool. But yeah, man, this kid is worth, in my opinion, every dime that he gets. But you have to ask yourself, again, this is a huge contract, the richest we've ever seen. But you can just imagine the kind of, again, the owners would not give would not issue a contract like this if he wasn't, the revenue that he's generated for this franchise. It's got to be triple the value of this contract. So again, the owners wouldn't give it out if they didn't have it. So again, is this going to, now if you look at the team overall, how is this going to impact Chris Jones' situation? Which,
Can I hit you with this though? Because people are like, sorry, I just want to get this out of the way and let you continue on. I don't mean to interrupt you, but this is perfectly off what you're saying. Dude, they're returning 20 of the 22 players they just won the Super Bowl with. Plus, they've added Clyde Edwards-Helaire and et cetera, and everything they've added throughout the draft. So if you actually look at them, what have they really lost?
Yeah.
The thing is, they might lose Chris Jones now because of this money. But if you look at it, even if they lose Chris Jones, that's still 19 of the 22 players, 19 of your 22 starters would return even if you lost Chris Jones.
And I even think, Chris Jones is going to be a huge loss for him, no doubt about it.
For sure.
But in terms of them competing next year in the AFC, I still would like, if I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan, I still like our chances. I really do.
Yep.
I still like our chances. So, but again, if I'm Brian Flores, now's the time to swoop in and get a player like a Chris Jones if they were entertaining that possibility. Now's the time to pounce because the ink is already dried on that contract. So now's the time to swoop in and get a player like him. And I just hope they are seriously entertaining it. But yeah, man. But at the end of the day, the kid is worth it. Is it going to impact them, down the road in terms of bringing in, marginal free agents? Maybe, maybe not. But from a team standpoint, from a team's perspective, the approach is and should always be building your team through the draft and supplementing your team through free agency.
Mm-hmm.
I don't buy that. I don't buy it. I don't subscribe to that channel of a quarterback has to give up money in order to be competitive. I don't believe that. I know a lot of people do. They looked at the 20-year dynasty of the New England Patriots and they think that is the model. No, I don't subscribe to that channel. That is an anomaly. I make the argument that you've got arguably the greatest coach to ever do it. You've got arguably the greatest quarterback to ever do it. In their prime, over the duration of that dynasty, that is the reason why they were so successful. Not so much that did it help. Brady gave up $5 million here, $10 million here. Maybe, maybe not. Well, I'm sure it helped. But again, I think why they were so successful is you can attribute to those two individuals more so than the money Brady actually gave up over the years. So again, you just have to, they built the championship team through the draft. They found Patrick Mahomes. They found Tyreek Hill. They found Travis Kelce. They found Eric Fisher. They found Chris Jones. Okay. So they just built the championship team. Yeah, they can do it again. They can do it again.
Yeah, but look what they're doing. Look what they did in this year's draft too. Like I said, they added Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Exactly.
They added L'Jarius Sneed, the safety out of Louisiana Tech, to possibly be Sorensen's eventual replacement. They added the linebacker out of Mississippi State, whom I loved pre-draft, Willie Gay Jr.
Yep.
Who else did they add? They added Yasir Durant, the left tackle from Missouri, who we've talked about in our mock drafts. But who did they add? Who made my big board, brother? Remember, they drafted one of my favorite tackles in this draft, right tackle specifically, Lucas Niang. And I don't know right now with Eric Fisher and Michael Schwartz, I don't know if they're going to kick Lucas Niang in the guard. But if they're kicking Lucas Niang into guard, that's a 6'7", 328-pound guy who just skates on his feet as he moves into his pass and run sets. Like, that's a guy who I said had the potential to be the best tackle in the draft if he stayed healthy, because he's that good. He's a first-round talent. The only reason he fell out is because he had a little bit of a durability issue. If they're kicking a talent like that into guard, oh boy, all of a sudden you can see what they're doing. They're Yasir Durant, what are you going to do? You're going to kick him into left guard too? Because, again, that's another guy. He's 6'7", he's 330, moves really well. You kick those guys in the guard next to Fisher and Schwartz, and all of a sudden, and Austin Reeder in the middle, and all of a sudden, brother, they built a disgusting line through the draft that can last, and they can just keep fitting in pieces wherever they need to and just keep that line together. So it's going to be interesting to see how they deploy their offensive line. But I think this year they had a really solid draft across the offensive line. They added Clyde Edwards-Helaire, another weapon for Mahomes to utilize. And
that linebacker at Mississippi State is the ideal fit for
beast.
that team. That team, because what did they lack last year in their linebacking core? Speed. So they addressed that with this kid. So again, the approach should always be replenish, find those diamonds in the draft, continue to replenish your roster, okay, and then you dip into free agency at times and supplement. But you have to identify. You got to have one of those players, bro, at that position. You have to. That's where it all starts. That's where it all starts and ends, is at that quarterback position. And when you identify a player with his skill set, I mean, you could put his talent up against anybody we've ever seen, ever. Much as I love Dan Marino wasn't the physical freak this kid is. I mean, let's just be real. So, and he's rewriting history in real time, and we're seeing it unfold. So
I will say Marino was a better passer at his age when he came in, because if you look at, the last CBS,
their numbers are identical.
Yeah, but you can't compare them, because in '84, a corner could drape all over.
Well, I give you that. That's legitimate.
That's legitimate.
It
was way harder in '84 to hit 5,000 yards than it is. And here's the thing.
Go ahead.
Check this one out. 12 quarterbacks historically have ever hit 5,000 yards. Okay, 11 of those 12 came in the 2010s. Okay, so when you go back and you actually do it, the 5,000 yards up and from beyond, when you actually put Marino on that list with everyone's 2010, 2011, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 17, and there's Marino sitting there at 84.
I get it, and that's legitimate. That's a legitimate argument you can make. I'm just saying, Marino wasn't the talent this kid is.
No, athletically, he wasn't athletic.
That's what and this kid, according to him now, he's just scratched the surface in terms of learning the game and from the pocket, identifying defenses, how they're scheming him pre and post snap
coverages.
He's just scratched the surface. This kid is just out there winging it off his talent. So again, I'm not a Kansas City Chiefs fan. I don't love Patrick Mahomes. I just have an immense amount of respect, crazy amount of respect for this kid's talent.
You're looking at it objectively.
Exactly. This kid's talent is undeniable. So I know a lot of people out there were saying that, oh, well, they're not going to be able to compete now. Man, stop it. That's ridiculous. Stop it. This kid, now they might go to, and we talked about this privately as well, in terms of the team overall. Can you hear me, bro?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay.
In terms of the team overall moving forward with this contract, now it might, maybe, and again, we know where I stand in terms of contracts. It's all about the structure of the deal.
You want to
know what I mean? Exactly. So, a lot of people out there feel like they're not going to be able to compete. I just do not subscribe to that channel. I think it's all about the structure of the contract.
Yeah, you get most of that money out in the first 5 or 6 years, bro.
Exactly. And again, continue to replenish your roster through the draft. That's the blueprint. That's what the Patriots have done.
what's crazy? It's also because other than Chris Jones, you have a lot of these guys. You have your window right now, your 2-3 year window. Plus, you're drafting a guy like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who 50-year options where you're gonna have to pay him if he performs. But anyways, on top of all that, another reason why you could probably justify playing in the front end is not only because you're going to get that playoff ticket money and that playoff revenue, but if you're winning, because I think the most success they're going to find is probably in the first 5-6 years anyways, what the jersey sales alone, the merchandise sales alone that Mahomes is going to generate, it's going to, that contract at the end of the day, they're going to pay him $503 million, but they're going to make over $1 billion off this kid when it's said and done.
Absolutely. More than that, bro. Double that. What are you talking about? Double that.
I just said over $1 billion, bro.
Yeah. No, yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
But, yeah, man. I'm not we all know where my loyalty lies, but I'm just, looking at this situation as objectively as possible. And I think this kid's talent is just crazy. And kudos to the Chiefs, bro, for getting out ahead and, getting out ahead of this situation. And again, like you said, this contract 5 years from now, even probably 3 years from now, could look like potentially a bargain for them. You never know. The revenue is going up, constantly going up for the NFL. So, and I even think there's going to be I think in the next 5 years, definitely going to be at least one more team added to the NFL, maybe two. And again, that's additional revenue for the league overall. But yeah, man, in my opinion, he's worked it. And if you have a generational talent at that position, hopefully Tua turns out hopefully we'll be in this situation here in about 4 years. Tua turns out to be this generational talent. Yeah. Like a Patrick Mahomes, like a Russell Wilson. But yeah, man, I just think, I just have a tremendous amount of respect for this kid's ability.
For sure. All right, bro. So media is obviously about to be affected pretty heavily by COVID right now. And, media access to the 2020 NFL training camp preseason will look a lot different. Most notable, there will be no in-person interviews with players, and they won't be permitted until further notice. We're going to go over a couple of things here. I got a couple of images with what was sent out. So it basically just goes over about how media access to club facilities will be limited. It goes over about how there will be tier credentials in place. All media personnel must wear a mask. And it's talking about how, to an extent, it's looking like there might only be 4 people allowed in the facility with media credentials at one time. And the distances are going to have to be kept between the media itself and the players as we move forward here. So I got to ask you, as we continue to look at it, this is the second part, guys. This deals more with training camp, and it talks about how you're not even going to be allowed to tweet. There's no blogging, texting, tweeting, or reporting of any kind is permitted from practice, including comments overheard between players, coaches, and staff while on site. This information may also not be included in reporting, social media or otherwise, at a later date. So obviously it's because they want to keep, if anything's being discussed about the virus, they want to keep it under wraps. But when you look at the privacy, the extent of the privacy they're going, clubs are permitted to limit videotaping or photographing to certain portion of training camp practice. It's not going to be out there where pictures are coming out, stories are coming out. It's just going to be a different feel. It's just going to be a different look for training camp this year, bro. And we all expected it, but I don't know if we expected it being to this extent in terms of our coverage being affected, especially me and you, because we got plans in place, and there's still a chance they might still go down for training camp, and these kind of step on our toes a little bit. But besides that, man, it's going to be weird just on a summer day not being able to go and check what the latest news or little tidbit from training camp is, on your lunch break or your afternoon break or your morning break or whatever. Where are you at with this, EM?
Man, it's going to be extremely difficult to adjust to, definitely. But I will say this, the precautions that you're taking, they have no, again, the priority should be safety. So I commend the NFL for implementing and restricting for the restriction of the access to these teams and potential access. Because again, safety should be number one. But am I happy about it? Absolutely not, bro. It's going to be extremely difficult to get by training camp. And what if we don't even have preseason games? You know what I mean? That's going to be even more difficult. But if this, all of these restrictions and all of these, what the NFL is implementing, if that ensures us a safe, as much safety as possible for it ensures no disruption to the regular season, I'm all for it. I'll get by this summer. We'll all live. It'll be difficult and we'll be frustrated, but as long as they line up, when is it, September 8th is the first game of the season? As long as there's no disruption of the season and the teams report on time and everything runs smooth with the regular season, I'm all for it.
Yeah, because you gotta wonder what, like, where are we going in terms of what's the extent that this bubble is really going to be.
They should leave no stone in as far as, as long as safety is priority, they should leave no stone unturned. Because again, you're not just talking about the team, you're talking about, one player, the entire team. If one player gets, if he gets infected, I mean, he's putting everybody in jeopardy, everyone. So they should leave no stone unturned in terms of, implementing as much safety as possible moving forward, because this virus is nothing to play with. It's no joke. Absolutely no joke. So I commend the NFL. Again, it's going to be difficult. Am I going to love it? No, absolutely not. It's going to be extremely frustrating. And again, especially if we don't have any preseason games.
Yeah, because this is basically what the plan is. Tier 2M is including a maximum of 10 people who can watch practice from the sidelines. That will include local print, broadcast reporters, network reporters who are watching the team that day, and a videographer and a still photographer. Tier 3, outdoor access, including an additional pool of 30 people that will be allowed to watch practice while remaining at least 10 feet from the practice field. So that group will include additional media and broadcast personnel, additional security personnel, additional medical personnel, and club scouts. So, I mean, the NFL has told reporters that the teams themselves will select the Tier 2M reporters who will be in that group of 10 that will have direct access. So, and you already got the Miami Herald, the South Florida Sentinel, Palm Beach Post, Associated Press, and ESPN, that want to get into that, as well as local affiliates. So, and look at this, MiamiDolphins.com, their in-house media team, their social media team, they will not be allowed to count among the Tier 2M reporters. So, yeah, it's gonna be interesting, man. It's gonna be very interesting in terms of what kind of news comes out and how quickly it comes out. Because if an injury happens, how quickly can it really get reported? I guess one of the people outside, but then again, you can't live tweet from practice, right?
Right.
So,
it's going to be frustrating. It's going to be extremely frustrating. But, like I said, bro, as long as it ensures, the season is going to be, from a safety standpoint, it's going to be, it's going to ensure us having a successful season and with no disruptions. I'm all for it, man. This 1 year, hopefully this is the only year we have to deal with anything of this nature. So, yeah, bro. Hey, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Safety should be priority number one. This virus is nothing to play with. So
such a weird environment right now and state of the world that we're in, right?
I know, man. I was, we were talking earlier. We were at Chili's earlier, And well, I didn't go in. We just pulled up to the curbside and got our dinner and whatnot. But these people. I mean, people. It's just like no. You see these people coming in at a restaurant and there's no interaction between them. They got masks on. Some people got the entire body covered up. I'm like, again, it's like something out of a movie. I can't really explain it. It's just the climate that we are in 2020, bro. It's just, I never thought in my lifetime I just would never see anything of this magnitude, anything crazy like this. And but we got to roll with it. It's 2020. It's this virus is here, and we just have to deal with it accordingly. And yeah, man, it's just crazy times we're living in. Crazy.
It's just, it's a scary thought that we all hope and pray that, man, there isn't a second wave. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's where it's at right now with
man.
me, at least.
I agree 100%.
The first wave was so sloppily handled, so let's just hope it doesn't continue. So a few nights ago, I'm just going to show you a protocol was passed around the NFL, and basically it's COVID-19 protocols for 2020 training camp and preseason, including the detailed breakdown for handling individuals exposed to someone who tested positive. So when you look at this, it talks about if someone's close contact exposure to symptomatic or COVID positive individual, they're going to go through the virus test as soon as possible. If virus test is negative and close contact remains asymptomatic, close contact may return to club facility subject to following: increased symptom monitoring, daily virus testing through days 1 to 8, and regular testing scheduled thereafter. If the virus test is positive and individual has no symptoms, no return unless and until 10 days have passed since initial positive test, 5 days have passed since initial positive test, and 2 consecutive negative virus tests separated by 24 hours, and 3, return approved by club physician after consultation with basically the health inside the locker room, the health team inside the locker room. So, and if the individual is asymptomatic, no return unless at least 10 days have passed since first COVID symptoms appeared, at least 72 hours have passed since symptoms last occurred, return approved by the club physician after consultation with ICS and NFL chief medical officer, and local regulations and requirements are satisfied. Here's the thing, Philip Rivers, he asked the question, what happens if someone tests positive during the Super Bowl? Which is something that we've wondered, right?
Yeah.
And they were basically told, he had his question answered right away by the NFL. And basically, as it stands, they were told that, yeah, you're not going to be playing football if you test positive. And it's during Super Bowl week. So unless you can come up, I believe it's with 2 positive tests, like 2 negative tests, basically no. So because what's happened is you'll be either quarantined for 10 days following the test, like I just said, or for only 5 days. But if you're only quarantined for 5 days and you test positive during Super Bowl week, you need 2 consecutive negative tests within a 24-hour period and clearance from the respective team's physician after the physician consults with the infection control for sports and the NFL chief medical officer. So even if you get back-to-back negative tests, you still got a whole bunch of holes you gotta hump. So yeah, it's more of a yes than it is a maybe that the NFL responded to Philip Rivers when he posed that question, bro.
I agree with this policy. Again, safety should be of the utmost concern. Not the Super Bowl. It'll be another tough situation to deal with if hopefully the Dolphins are there and this situation potentially comes up, a key player tests positive or whatnot, and he ultimately can't, winds up not playing in the Super Bowl because of his positive test or, complications as a result of his positive test. It'd be tough to deal with, but bro, this is life and death we're talking about potentially. This is life and death we're talking about. So it will be extremely difficult. But yeah, they should have. I'm glad they have, such a strict policy in place. And again, they're getting out ahead of this thing, because, like I said, safety should be the priority. So it'd be tough to deal with. Anybody's team finds themselves, any fan finds their team in a situation like this, and one of their key guys, this scenario comes up, and one of the key guys can't play in the Super Bowl as a result of this. That'd be extremely difficult to deal with. But again, we have to take that fanboy hat off. This is life and death we're talking about. So kudos again to the NFL for implementing, these kind of policies, these strict policies to ensure as much safety as possible. So I agree with it. Hopefully this is a non-issue. That scenario doesn't come to fruition. Hopefully, but you have to have a plan in place moving forward, because it's life and death we're talking about. Reason. I mean, what do we even talk? There's nothing to talk about. So, it'll, like I said, bro, it'll be different, extremely difficult to deal with, but it is what it is.
No, I agree with you, man. Safety is obviously of the utmost importance. But continuing with this COVID thing before we move on, and get into some Dolphins tidbits before we get into the main topic of the show. The NFL and the NFLPA are discussing an opt-out program, and according to Mike Garofalo of NFL.com, the NFL and the Players Association have already begun discussing a formal opt-out program for players who do not feel comfortable with playing in 2020 due to the ongoing public health crisis. The league and the NFL are an opt-out program for players who are not comfortable playing this upcoming season because of the pandemic, because of some underlying symptoms, because of their families, whatever. And the hope is they come to an agreement that the player can opt out and come back in 2021 and pick up his contract where he left off. So they call that tolling. So your contract would toll. That's being discussed right now, and it sounds like it very well may be a reality soon.
In 2020. Wow.
Yeah, so you missed 2020, but like if you have 6 years left on your contract going into 2020, even if you skip 2020, when you come back in 2021, you don't have 5 years, you still have your 6 years left.
I like this because, again, like we just talked about, this illness, this virus is no joke. So, and I'm glad the NFL is giving a player the opportunity, if they don't feel comfortable playing this season, because again, you have to think about your life outside of football. That's the most important thing. Some people have kids that have illnesses, and God forbid, player gets infected, gets sent home, and he passes this along to his family, or any scenario where any player can go home and pass this on, not just to his family, but just anyone. That's a concern, a major, major concern. So I'm glad the NFL is giving players the opportunity, because at the end of the day, if a player opts into the season, if they opt to play, it's ultimately up to them. It's not like the NFL is forcing them to play this year. They're giving them at least you have an option. You know what I mean? So it's all on the players if they opt in or whether they opt out. But I'm just glad the opportunity is presented to these players that, look, we understand, the climate that we're in this world. Here's the opportunity. If you don't feel 100% comfortable with playing the season this year, we'll go home for a year, rest up wherever, get your mind right, get your family right, or whatever. Okay. And then we'll pick up where we left off next year. So again, I'm glad the NFL there's options available to players, and they're just not like forced, to play the season. So,
and where you see it, because it looks like the NBA wants to do something like this too, right?
Yeah.
They want to give people the right to opt out.
So this country is all about options. I agree. So I love it. It's up to the players.
Yeah.
If you opt in to play, if you opt in to play, sorry man, I had got a text message, my bad.
It's all good.
But yeah, I'm just glad the NFL is just providing these options for these players at the end of the day.
Yeah. And guys, I want to hit you with the random stat of the day here. Ryan Fitzpatrick only needs 1,780 passing yards this season to be in the top 30 of all time in terms of passing yards. This year, if he did that, he'd pass Troy Aikman, Steve Young, Tony Romo, amongst a few others. So let that sink in for you. He's less than 2,000 yards away from passing Tony Romo, Steve Young, and Troy Aikman and moving into the top 30 of passing yards by quarterback all time. So
Fitzy, I see you, Fitzy.
let that sink in just for
hey. Reason we need to start talking about, is he a potential Hall of Famer or not? What do you think? I'm kidding, bro. I'm kidding. But I see you, Fitzy. I see you. I'm riding with you, homie. I'm riding with you. You already know.
So let me ask you, Dolphins Wire had a really good article, and it posed a pretty good question of sorts. When you look at the 2021 season, 2020 to 2021 season, the fact that this year scouting is going to be all over the place, bro, if there even is a college season, are we at an advantage, EM, because we've got Chris Greer, Reggie McKenzie, and Marvin Allen, guys who, Marvin Allen spent 16 years with the Patriots organization. Reggie McKenzie turned around the Raiders in the 2010s.
Brian Flores' background in scouting.
Yeah, Marvin Allen.
To that,
Marvin Allen also drafted Patrick Mahomes. So when you look at this and the experience we have, are we at an advantage that a lot of other teams wouldn't be at when it comes to scouting in 2020, 2021, if COVID does, and it most likely will, impact the scouting community?
Based off these two gentlemen's backgrounds, in addition to the organization that Brian Flores came from, the fact that we have these individuals in our front office in key positions, that helps me sleep a lot better at night with this scenario. In this scenario, their background, Marvin Allen, his background speaks for itself. Reggie McKenzie, his background speaks for itself. Yeah, this definitely, having those individuals in our organization, bro, it does help me sleep a little better at night, but it's going to be difficult for any organization, though. This whole COVID-19 has just totally turned the league upside down at every level. So, but absolutely it helps, and it gives us somewhat of an advantage. These guys are proven. These guys are made men within the league in the scouting world. Made men. You know what I mean? And Marvin Allen might even be the Tony Soprano of the scout in terms of scouting. You know what I mean? So yeah, absolutely, it's going to help me sleep better at night, because it's going to be difficult. And what if the NCAA doesn't play this year? What if they don't have a season this year? I don't think they are, to be honest with you. Yeah. So yeah, scouting,
and there's no evaluation. There's no supplemental draft.
There's
no supplemental draft this year. So guys, if there is no NCAA season and they already have a heads up on it internally, they can't even go into the supplemental draft this year.
Exactly. So that's going to make it even more difficult. But again, this COVID-19 issue has turned every league upside down.
EM, the NCAA, there's no season this year. What do you do for juniors who are going into the senior season? Are you robbing them of their senior season?
Man, that's tough, bro.
Pyro, EM's in his backyard right now. Because all you see is it's getting dark out there, huh?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's a beautiful sunset. Breathtaking. But
all I think is a Seinfeld episode every time you say that, bro.
But it's going to be difficult, reason. I mean, it's going to be extremely, extremely difficult. I really don't know what to say, bro. I really don't.
Gotcha.
You gotta feel for these players too. You know what I mean? Man, it's gonna be extremely tough on these players this year. But in terms of the Miami Dolphins, I'm sure they have a plan in place. They just based off the example that they've set, with last year's draft, just how the organization seems to be operating now. I'm sure they've covered A, B, C, D, E, and F. I'm sure there's a plan in place to, that they have in place to ensure that in terms of, scouting, player evaluation, there will be nothing that's going to come between them and, our scouting department and, your Marvin Allens of the world and Reggie McKenzie's of the world of potentially finding the Nick Needhams, the Robert Hunts, or whomever. So I think they'll have a plan in place to where they can get their value, they'll be able to, identify those players wherever they might be, no matter what COVID-19 brings. So, but ultimately the players that's supposed to play this year, you got to feel for them the most. Yeah. So, tough times, man. Tough times, bro.
So before we get into the main topic, last thing, I haven't even shown the EM this yet. I found a pretty interesting chart, EM. And it basically charts out. So you guys, if you look at it, you're going to see EPA. So the EPA is basically expected points added. So that averages, EPA.
Y'all see that? Y'all see that lovely? You see that sunset?
Yeah, so EPA is the expected points added attributed to a defensive player. So when you look at this, bro, when you look at the average momentum, which is mass plus velocity, and then you look at the average force, which is mass plus acceleration, and you're looking force versus momentum for NFL linebackers on running plays, and this is using data from Big Bull Data 2020, force and momentum at the time of handoff, minimum 400 run plays. If you go by this chart, bro, Raekwon McMillan is his average force he's coming with the force of about 200 pounds, but he's actually coming with momentum downhill of just under 340 pounds. Now, Leighton Vander Esch is clearly, when you look at force and momentum, he comes with about 42 pounds of momentum, but he also comes with about 224 pounds of force. So when you look at Raekwon, and your boy Tremaine Edwards is right there, he comes with about 320 pounds of average momentum and just about 195 pounds of average force. Man, when you look at Raekwon McMillan, bro, the mass and velocity and then the mass and acceleration that this guy is displaying during the run game, this man is a truck on cleats, brother.
Oh, absolutely.
This is charted data. We've just talked about how good of a hitter he is, but now we've got charted data showing the force and momentum that this guy is coming at. And you can see Jerome Baker is right here. Jerome Baker comes with about 280 pounds of momentum, but he only comes with about 185 pounds of average force.
That explains all those missed tackles, bro. That explains everything.
But when you look
you look at the tape. Just look at the tape. Yeah. Raekwon is a fit. I love Raekwon. And it's bringing, I'm a little, I'm feeling, I got to be honest, I'm feeling some type of way. That article, that Barrett Jackson article came out, and you can hear those reports and the rumblings that, the staff might not be as high on Raekwon, and he's going to have to earn his job, which he should. They're high on Gruger Hill, which I am as well. But Raekwon, the level of physicality that he brings, He's a natural, old school, downhill middle linebacker. And he just brings the defense overall in terms of the run defense. He just brings a level of physicality that nobody else on a roster brings consistently. But he's got two issues: durability, and he can't cover me. So, man, but I love Raekwon. I really do. But, in the NFL, this is a staff that prioritizes versatility.
Bro, what's that beam of light in the background?
What's that? It's a telephone pole light.
Oh, I was gonna say, yo, is someone getting abducted behind you, bro?
It's like a shooting star, don't it? Shooting star or something, bro.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah.
But But yeah, I love the physicality that he brings overall to the defense. You can see the defense when Raekwon McMillan played, and it just as far as the run game is concerned, when Raekwon McMillan's in that lineup, everybody else, our run defense picks up a notch or two. And it would sadden me if something happens to where he's not on this roster for the 2020 season. Now next year that might be a different story, but I like Raekwon. And I just can't understand his issue in terms of coverage. Because the kid, he's an underrated athlete. A lot of people don't understand. They don't realize how good of an athlete he is.
We all know how good of an athlete Jerome Baker is, and everyone was trying to preach how good he was in coverage. And yet a couple weeks ago,
they have the same coverage grade. Same coverage grade.
Yeah, when me and you went into the analytics a couple of weeks ago, we showed that Jerome Baker in coverage this year was downright a disaster at times.
He and Jerome Baker have the same. They graded out right around the same. I think Larry brought that up on his panel the other day. They graded out in terms of coverage right around the same. So I don't want to hear that nonsense about Jerome Baker. I'll be so glad when we move out. The quicker we move away from him, the Bobby McCains of the world, the Josh Rosens of the world. I tell you, man, I'll be so happy once that happens. When I have that opportunity, when we have when we have another segment of it's time to get on the bus. I tell you. So, but Raekwon, I love that kid. I love that overall. I love the physicality he brings. I just hope. But to be honest with you, reason I don't anticipate him being on the roster after this year because again, he has limitations. And this is a staff that prioritizes versatility. They're all about you have to be multiple, you have to be interchangeable, and they require all three levels of their defense. That's a huge requirement. As you look at the players that they've acquired in the draft and free agency, that's a huge, huge requirement. So Raekwon is just a one-dimensional player. And at the end of the day, I'm sad. It's sad, and he has durability issues. Now, see, I think the Dolphins would be more inclined to hang on to him if this kid had missed so much. He's missed a considerable amount of time since he's been in the league. And those durability issues, they don't go away as you get older. And so why would you make a huge investment in him, a one-dimensional player, number one, that has durability issues? So I don't see him being prioritized after this year. And it saddens me to say that because, again, like I said, bro, I love what he brings to our defense. But he's a player with limitations. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. But I don't anticipate him being on the roster after this year.
Agree. Yeah, him and Devon Godshaw are and I love Raekwon just like you, but I think they want that guy to be a 3-down linebacker. I don't think they want to have to take him out for passing situations. Let's get into the main topic. So we looked into the schedule and we looked at it. Actually ended up being 5 teams, just like the passing attack that we identified that we think could pose a challenge for the Miami Dolphins this season in terms of rushing attacks. It just happened to work out at 5, just like last time. So let's get into it. So one of the first teams we see is that we think that we identified was the San Francisco 49ers, bro. They added JaMycal Hasty out of Baylor in the draft to that backfield. They've already got Tevin Coleman. Raheem Mostert showed up pretty well last year. They have one of the best fullbacks in football.
Probably the best.
Yeah, probably the best. When you look at the offensive line, their offensive line is returning, and their offensive line is pretty decent, especially on the interior. But now they've added Trent Williams as well to the fold. So when you look at this team, bro, yeah, there's no more Matt Breida, but Raheem Mostert really started finding himself, especially in the playoffs. Do you think this is a team that, how big of a challenge do you think that they could pose for our defense this season?
Oh, huge. Huge. We're going to be tested.
Derek McKinnon might be back too, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Huge. We're going to be tested those first 5 games. I think we played the 49ers with the 3rd game of the season or the 4th? 3rd game. They're concerned, no doubt. The addition of Trent Williams, they were, number 1 in rushing last year. They have 3 backs that are multi-dimensional. Them getting Trent Williams, I mean, that just made probably one of the, a top 5 offensive line, maybe a top 2 at this point. So they're definitely concerned. That tight end is a concern. George Kittle is a huge concern, not only in the passing game, but the running game as well, because he's like a tackle out there in terms of his blocking. He's an extra tackle out there. So outstanding tight end in the running game. Absolutely, it's going to be, and like I said, I've been consistent, all off season. My only concern, and I hope they address that come training camp, because there will be players let go from other teams. My biggest concern with this defense is that interior, and this is a team in terms of scheme wise, they implement. Every possible style scheme in terms of in the run game that you can throw at a team. Power, zone combination. Trapping, counters. It's crazy the run schemes that they're able to throw at teams. And again, you have to be disciplined. You have to be able to be stout and strong at the point of attack on, at every position on that line, because you fall asleep if you don't remain disciplined, and all of a sudden you got one of those guys going 80 yards, for a touchdown. So it's going to be an extremely but I'm welcoming the challenge, because we're going to know the first 5 games exactly what kind of team we have. I'm welcoming it. I ain't running from nobody. Don't get it twisted. I'm not running from nobody, but it's going to be a challenge. The Seahawks, the AFC West.
Yeah, we'll get into it all.
Yeah, sorry, bro. I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but they're definitely going to be a challenge. Definitely. And that fullback is, man, he is. I hope, Jerome Baker is not on this roster when we play them, because that fullback, if Jerome Baker, if they have him in that starting lineup, oh my God. Everybody, that fullback is looking for Jerome Baker. I guarantee you, Kyle Shanahan is just telling him, don't worry about nobody else. Just identify 55 where he is. That's where the play is going to go.
Kyle just blow him up.
So, yeah, man, it's going to be difficult, but we'll see. But I hope we bring a veteran presence in that middle to play that zero technique. Even if it's just not necessarily a starter, but a rotational guy. Because they really have, in terms of depth, they've got 2 rookies at that position. I love Raekwon McMillan. We all know that. That's my dude, but he's still a rookie. So I hope they address that at some point.
Raekwon Davis.
Who did I say? Who did I say?
McMillan.
Oh, my bad. Raekwon Davis. Sorry.
It's like Tevin Coleman has kind of settled in as that secondary scat back, like how he was in Atlanta. It looks like Mostert is going to take it, but you also got – people forget Jerick McKinnon. He's been sidelined by the injuries. He's got 4.4 speed, and they paid him a lot of money to bring him over from Minnesota. Jeff Wilson Jr., even when Jeff Wilson Jr. was in last year, he performed at a decently high level in that scheme behind that offensive line. And like I said, they added JaMychal Hasty. So they've got a pretty loaded backfield in terms of things they can throw at you, different looks. And yeah, you talk about Kyle Juszczyk, like he will blow Baker up. He was the top graded fullback in all of football last year.
Oh yeah.
By
I mean, his game that fullback is crazy, and we're just not even talking about in the running, but the passing game. Yeah. Look at how they motion him out and have him line up as a a tight end coming off in the tight end sets off the line, bro. When you put the tape on, he's multi-dimensional. He's in my opinion, for my money, he's the best fullback right now. Very, very good player, and it's concerning. It's concerning.
Yeah.
So
the week before that, brother, we got to go and play the Seattle Seahawks. Unlike San Francisco, where we got to go to San Francisco, the Seahawks are coming to Miami, and we've talked about this kind of a little bit when we identified them as a passing attack. We understand Carlos Hyde has been a journeyman, but he's effective everywhere he went. And they brought him in. They drafted DJ Dallas, who a lot of Miami Hurricane fans might be familiar with. Rashad Penny, whenever he can stay healthy, he's very effective. Chris Carson, again, you're talking about a top 15, top 12 back when he is healthy. Will Dissly had a great season last year. He's effective in the run game. He's effective in the pass game. He'll be back from his injury. They added Greg Olsen, who's not a slouch when it comes to run blocking either, really. Then when you look at their offensive line, brother, they added on top of their already decent offensive line, they added a guy in the interior like Damian Lewis, the right guard out of LSU. So you look at what the Seahawks are starting to do a little bit. I know people try to rag on Pete Carroll a little bit for trying to find a run game, but people don't realize when Chris Carson is actually healthy and he's running, he's very, very effective, man. Very, very effective, as is Rashad Penny. And they're both Rashad's 4.5 speed, Chris Carson's 4.6 speed, but Chris Carson's coming at you 4.5 speed, 5'11", 222 pounds, and he's built like a little compact package coming at you. So when you look at this run game, take away how deadly we've already identified their passing game being, man, and you even got to add Russell Wilson's improvisation to that running game a little bit, right? I agree. So when you look at it, this is it could be a little bit of a matchup nightmare if the Seahawks play their cards right and get it going early on.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to match the physicality of this offensive line because this is a offensive line that, they deploy more power concepts, I would say, more so than the finesse stuff, the zones, and, this is a pure, power running football team. They run a lot of, they run a lot of 12 and 13 personnels, but they substitute at times 2 tight ends with linemen. So they'll have extra linemen on that offensive line at times. I mean, it is crazy the personnel groupings that they throw at people in terms of linemen. And again, this is a power physical team. They have all, their running backs, all of them are, they fit that power gap scheme, power type running backs, physical running backs. This is going to be a test as well, bro. Again, I think we play them before we play or after the 49ers within that, that 5-game window. Within that 5-game window. So we're going to get a good idea of what kind of team we have in terms of run defense. But in my opinion, this will be the biggest test, I think, because they can be overwhelming at times. They really can. So yeah, man, it's another concern. This is one of the best teams in the NFC for a reason. And then, like you just alluded to, the improvisation of Russell Wilson. That is the biggest concern, in my opinion. And yeah, another tough test. But again, I'm welcoming it. I'm not running from nobody. I'm sure nobody else is, because I want to see what kind of team we have. As early as possible. I want to know what kind of team we have. If we can go into San Francisco, we can go into Seattle and hold up and give them all they want. You know what I mean? I'll feel good for the rest of the season, to be honest with you, because those are 2 of the best teams in the entire NFL, definitely the NFC. So this is another physical a physical football team. And I'm just glad, again, I'm glad it came early on in the season so we can get a very good idea of what kind of team we have early on.
Yeah, man, I agree with you 110% in terms of testing us early on, because if you think about it, another team that's going to test us early on, we see them at the end of the season, we see them near the beginning of the season, are the Buffalo Bills with their running game. Now, I'm fairly high on their 1-2 punch, as me and you have talked about, with Zach Moss and Devin Singletary. But when you add in the fact that they also brought in TJ Yeldon to be the third guy back there, they have a pretty decent rotation, and they got a running game that you're obviously pretty much going to have to respect. Their offensive line is no slouch either, really. It's all right. It's all right. It's a little bit better on the, it's got some questions on the interior with, them bringing in a guy like EMdolphinfan. But, they got decent tackles. Their center's really good. When you look at a guy like, Dawson Knox, he's not exactly going to give you stellar run blocking. So, we look at that 1-2 punch as being more of a, again, we talked about it with the Seattle Seahawks. It looks like, that's a run game you're going to want to get going early if you're the Buffalo Bills, right? Establish it early with that 1-2 punch. And they're just, when you look at these guys, Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, when you look at their speed and when you look at, their ability to shed tackles. I mean, Devin Singletary, I went over a stat yesterday. Devin Singletary, when you go back to 2017, I believe he has the second most rushing touchdowns in the FBS if you go all the way back to 2017. So Devin Singletary, he started to flash last year, and now it's going to be Zach Moss's turn. And if people watch Zach Moss, this guy is absolutely a machine at shedding tackles. We'll see if it translates to the next level. But, when you add in what they already have with their passing game, and again, let's add in Josh Allen to this equation, because that's where he's been able to beat us, and that's where he's been able to be successful on us, not through the air. He's been able to kill us with his legs. So when you add in his improvisation skills, his ability that's already on tape to give us hassles with his legs, you add in Devin Singletary, TJ Yeldon, Zach Moss, it could be another team where, it might not be both games, but one of those games, they might be a little bit of a headache for us.
Buffalo, obviously they're a good team. They're a balanced football team overall, 1 through 55. But this team, I'm not so concerned as much as like the previous two teams that we just talked about. Buffalo, in terms of their talent level at the running back position, they have good talent. I'm not going to poo-poo their talent level, but it's up front is where I'm not, is where I'm not as concerned, in particular on the interior. I just don't think, their offensive line will be able to consistently overwhelm us, because this team, this 2020 version, this 2020 defense that the Miami Dolphins will be able to deploy, just from the secondary standpoint, Josh Allen will not beat us. And it's maybe 3 teams that will be able to consistently threaten us through the air. So if you're going to beat the 2020, if you're going to really, have success against the 2020 version of Miami Dolphins, it's going to be on the ground. And I think Buffalo will take that approach initially, but I just don't think they have the offensive line. It's going to take offensive line like a San Francisco, like a Seattle in the run game now. Now, maybe not so much in pass protection, but definitely in the run game, a offensive line that has that kind of physicality to really expose us up front, to get us out of our comfort zone and get us out of, get us to the point where we're doing things we're not necessarily comfortable with doing in terms of our in terms of schematics. So this team, I'm not so much concerned. So I think, that will be the approach. I think that'll be the approach of every team, how they attack the defense early on, especially. But Buffalo, I'm just not concerned. There's minimal concern in my opinion about this team. I just don't think they have the talent up front to really expose us and get us out of our comfort zone. In particular in the run game. I just don't think. Now they have talented backs. They've got a rookie. They have a rookie back there, but T.J. Yeldon's a good guy. Is a good back. Singletary is a good back. They have talent there, but I just don't think up front, bro. They have the. I just don't think they have the talent up front to be able to consistently threaten us in the run game. Not this year. I don't. I could be wrong. I could be totally off base. But again, we'll get I'm glad we played them first. I told you the Buffalo game, in my opinion, is going to be the tone setter in terms of the AFC East. We might not be able to match up overall with San Francisco. I mean, those are two of the best teams in the entire NFL, 2 Super Bowl contenders. But in terms of the AFC East, I like our chances that we match up with any team, not only the Buffalo Bills, but any team. Definitely not scared of the Buffalo Bills, bro. Looking forward to it, actually. So,
guys, before we get into the last 2 on our list, smash that like button. It does help us with the algorithm. I know we only got about 50 people in here right now. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. If you'd like to donate to the channel, paypal.me/Phinside. Any donation helps. And then if you want to become a Phinside the NFL patron, www.patreon.com/Phinside the NFL. We have 4 different tiers. We have the $5 tier, the $10 tier, the $15 tier, and the $20 tier. If you want to join any one of those, we appreciate it. And also, I want to give a quick shout out to our latest PayPal donation. Damian Deese, he's always showing us mad love on this channel. He's always showing me mad love over there on Twitter. He just sent Fins Up 100 and he donated $19.55. My friend, we appreciate you giving us a donation, opening up your wallet to the channel. I don't know if you saw the intro video earlier, but those type of donations allow us to do those type of things moving forward. So we appreciate you.
It's greatly appreciated, homie. Greatly appreciated.
And guys, we're going to do it every show. So I just want to shout out to our patrons right now: Infinite Trauma, Rhino, Shake Money, and Fake Spike. Shout out to our patrons right now. Again, if you guys want to join and become a patron, because at the $20 tier, guys, at the top tier, you'll be able to come on here and discuss a topic of your choosing with me and EM. So again, patreon.com/Phinside the NFL. 4 different tiers, 4 different payment levels. Check them all out because they all have different benefits. All right, guys? So getting back to things. So we were talking about the NFC West. We looked at how San Francisco and how Seattle are going to give us an issue this year. But also when you shift to the AFC West and how we're playing the AFC West this year, there's a couple teams there that are going to give us a serious problem. And one of those teams is a team that I've been warning everyone since the schedule came out. Don't sleep on this team. And then the draft happened, and they got Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler, and it went even more. Don't sleep on this team. But let's start with that offensive line.
Very. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, bro.
Garrett Bowles, Juwan James. They brought in Graham Glasgow. They drafted Nathan Moody. They drafted Lloyd Cushenberry. When you look at the running back situation, they brought in Melvin Gordon. They already had Royce Freeman and Philip Lindsay. I mean,
Freeman is a Pro Bowler. Freeman is a Pro Bowler, correct?
I don't remember that. I can't. Okay. I can't say yes.
You know what? I might have him confused with the running back from Pittsburgh. I'm sorry. I always get them two mixed up. I'm sorry.
But yeah, you look at that offensive line, and then you look at, just Philip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon as being your 1-2 punch. Oh, boy.
Yeah. I thought 4 on your list was going to be the next was going to be.
This isn't in order. This isn't in order.
Oh, okay. But absolutely. Talent level, this team, you have been warning us about this team for a while now. And, you look at the upgrade in the passing game, young, ascending offensive line. They've got good players. I mean, I'll say this in terms of the level of concern from our perspective. It's all about Drew Lock, and I get we're talking about running games, but Drew Lock has to, and I think the approach with any team, and I think this is the correct approach for a second-year quarterback, a second-year, second-round quarterback at that. The approach should be, I think teams are just gonna well, I'll say this: the Miami Dolphins. They will be aggressive. They will crowd the line of scrimmage, and I think they will force Drew Lock to beat you. To be consistent enough and to make enough plays to again get us out of that comfort zone. And that alone, if he's able to do that, to be consistent, okay, efficient, early on. Teams will have to scheme him different, and they'll have to probably, back up off of that line of scrimmage at times. You know what I'm saying?
I think you're going to have to, and not necessarily because of Drew Lock, but I think they have. When I look at who has the best top 3 receivers in the NFL right now, well, I don't care if 2 of them are rookies. Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler are number 1s on any other team, and the fact
you
that
can say
Cortland Sutton. Holy boy, like that's the problem. You're gonna have to look out for the receivers. It's not so much Drew Lock Drew Lock's gonna worry you because he's got an absolute cannon for an arm. And last year games he played, he displayed accuracy on different levels.
Yeah.
But my thing's gonna be that those receivers are gonna have to keep you honest.
Well, again, I don't care how much talent you have at the skill position. The quarterback still has to deliver consistently and accurately. They have to. Well, again, that's a small sample size. Baker Mayfield flashed his second half of the season. We saw how that worked out for him in his sophomore season. So he's going to have to do it.
But you can't compare that because he went through a whole different coaching change, a whole different culture change. I mean, that was like Drew Lock staying in the same system. He's continuing to develop. He's continuing to grow. He's not having the whole culture shake it to the ground. And a coach that's clearly in over his head in Freddie Kitchens. So,
again, this is a second-year player. Me personally, if I'm the Dolphins, the approach I'm taking is I'm suffocating the run game, and I'm going to force him to make enough consistent throws through the air to threaten us. And I just don't. Again, until you prove it to me, a second-year guy, small sample size. Okay, you gonna hit your wagon to that? Well,
played 5 games.
Okay, well, you're hitching your wagon to that train. Well, good luck with that. But I'm just saying my approach.
He threw over 1,000 yards in 5 games.
Okay, well, again, small sample size.
5 games is small sample size. I give you 2 or 3. 5 games is all right. That's an all right sample size.
Okay. Well, again,
he had a 300-yard game. He's only played 5 games, and he put it up a 300-yard game. How many games has Josh Rosen played? 16 games. He ain't had a 300-yard.
Well, bro, I'm not saying this guy is Josh Rosen. Please don't mistake. What I'm saying. Please don't get that twisted. This kid, obviously, he's way more talented than Rosen, will ever be. But I'm not saying that at all. But again, he's still a second-year player. So my approach, if I'm the Miami Dolphins with this secondary that we have, I'm crowding the line of scrimmage. Okay, I'm putting 7, 8 consistently down in that box, and I'm going to choke out that run game, hopefully, and I'm going to force him to beat us through the air. Good luck. Good luck. So, again, that's why I think if Drew Lock comes out and he shows that he can consistently make plays through the air and take advantage of the talent level that he has at the skill position, that will force teams to scheme him differently, which will ultimately help the run game. So, my point, my concern level from Miami Dolphins perspective, I'm not as much concerned because they have a good offensive line. Okay, they've got good, Jawan James.
They have a really good offensive line.
Yeah, they have a good offensive line. They do,
especially the interior.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, what did I say? I've been consistent. What I'm most concerned about with these teams is on the interior. That's my biggest concern. And this team potentially could threaten. What's that?
And that's one of their strengths.
Yeah, I agree. But again, I think, but if I'm the Dolphins, if I'm the Miami Dolphins, you know, I'm like I said, bro, I'm scheming to stop the run, and I'm gonna force Drew Lock. I'm gonna force the ball into Drew Lock's hands, and force him to beat us through the air and to consistently threaten us through the air. That's the approach I'm taking with this secondary. So good luck. If you think Drew Lock is gonna come out and like the
they're one of my dark horse teams.
I hear you. Well, you and everybody else that are high on the Denver Broncos, you're entitled to your opinion. But you asked mine and my approach. I am just not, and I'm not saying this kid is going to be Josh Rosen. Not at all. Drew Lock is immensely talented. This kid, he's a first-round talent. Why he slid in the second round, who knows? But, again, he's a second-year player. So the approach, if I am Brian Flores, I'm gonna force this kid to make plays on this secondary.
I mean, we saw what a second-year starter did last year. He just won a Super Bowl and got $500 million. So I'm not really. I'm not saying I'm not saying
Drew Lock and Patrick Mahomes now.
You're cutting me off without letting me finish. I'm not saying he's Patrick Mahomes, but at the same token, you can't hold the second-year starter to him because there is proof out there that doesn't mean Jack Bo Diddley. So
what's that? I didn't hear you. What'd you say?
I said you can't really use the sophomore excuse on him because there is proof out there that means Jack Bo Diddley. So
has he hasn't proven it.
Yeah, but
you can't compare him.
He hasn't had his sophomore season yet. I'm saying
exactly, and that's the point. That's the whole point.
Hold on, I'll say it to you slower so you can listen to me here. Okay, there's proof out there with players who have had sophomore seasons. Okay, so there's proof out there with players who at that position who have had good sophomore seasons. The only thing is he hasn't played the sophomore season yet, so you can't use the sophomore season as an excuse because there's enough players out there who played that position throughout the test of the last 20 years alone that have had good sophomore seasons at that position.
Dude, listen, this is, again, and I'm coming from what did I say? The Miami Dolphins perspective. I'm not just Drew Lock. Listen, hang on. Let me finish. Now you're cutting me off. Hang on. You're cutting me off.
Yeah, but your whole thing was you're going to stack the box, and your whole argument was he's a second-year quarterback. That was your whole downfall as to why you're
No. My whole point,
more than a dozen times.
No. My whole point is the secondary that we have. That applies to everyone on our schedule. Everyone, not just Drew Lock.
I said
because of the players that we have in the secondary. Good luck is what I said, is my point.
Guys,
so that applies to everyone.
In the comment section, was he or was he not identifying Drew Luck sophomore being in a sophomore?
In addition to.
Hold on. I'm talking to the comments right now. I ain't talking to you, bro. Comment section.
In addition to.
Was he not identifying that because you named it 6, 7, 8 times, bro?
Okay, in addition to, I've been consistent about this since after the draft. What did I say the approach the Miami Dolphins was going to be? We got the tape, bro. That's what that applies to everyone. The approach, in my opinion, is going to be for us to get through 4 cornerbacks on the field as much as possible. That's going to be the approach of the 2020 Miami Dolphins. And so that applies to every quarterback, not just Drew Lock. Now, the fact that he's a 2-year guy, absolutely. If you're a defensive coach, absolutely you want to scheme a second-year player with 5-game experience. Obviously, that's the approach to take to scheme him. Who wouldn't do that? Are you serious? Stop.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you can't do that because of how good the run is and how deadly his receivers are. It's not like this guy only has 1 target out there. This guy has 3 legitimate, not only first round, but
Baker Mayfield had 2 Pro Bowl wide receivers. How'd that work out?
Cover this, did we not just cover? You're trying to actually put
Baker Mayfield had 2 Pro Bowl wide receivers.
We literally just covered this. We literally just covered this about how.
Stop it.
Yeah, stop it. You can't compare the two because Drew Lock's staying in the same system. Baker Mayfield went through a whole culture change and had a head coach who was incompetent and proved that he was in over his head. So you can't even make the same comparison now.
That's a legitimate argument. considering the turmoil that happened in Cleveland. That's a legitimate argument. But I am saying
for 1 year. Clearly, it's a legitimate argument.
That is a legitimate argument. But I am saying if
it's totally different. Totally.
If I am a defensive coordinator with 2 all-pro potential quarterbacks in my secondary, okay, I don't care who they have good wide receivers, but again, you got 2 rookies now. There will be a learning curve. There is a learning curve that's going to happen with Jerry Jeudy, just like any NFL transitioning to any player transitioning to the NFL. So the approach again will be, in my opinion, not just to Drew Lock, but to everyone. We
see them week 6, and I don't think it's gonna. I think Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler will have more than enough of a grasp on the NFL right now. I think Jerry Jeudy's one of the best route runners I've ever seen come out of college.
Well, so, everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. But again,
route running is one of the things that translates. So
I agree, and that's a legitimate argument. Okay, but what I'm saying is, again, Jerry Jeudy's going to be facing.
My whole thing is here. You were basically saying stack the box because you have a second-year quarterback. What I'm sitting here and saying is it's not going to be that simple because of A, the rushing attack, that 2-headed monster, and B, I'm saying this isn't a one deep with a bunch of fodder behind him receiving core. What I'm sitting here and saying is when you actually break it down, not only do we have those 3, but Noah Fant flashed a lot from the tight ends position last year too. So now you've got and you got Melvin Gordon you can bring out of the backfield as he's a better receiving threat, I think, than Phillip Lindsay. But Phillip Lindsay has shown that he could be a receiving threat too. So I just named 6 legitimate receiving threats between the backfield and who are lining up in your receiving core. And I get that we have 2 of the best corners in the NFL. I'm not debating that. I'm not arguing that. But the fact of the matter is 6 outnumbers the 2.
Well, bro, at the end of the day, they have, again, Noah Fant.
He flashed.
And do we need to go? I mean, again, the heavy deployment of – I keep telling y'all this. Just from the scheme alone is going to create is going to be advantageous for us, matched up with probably 90%, 95% of the teams we face on our schedule.
We hope.
In my opinion.
We hope.
And again, well, bro, okay. Aren't you making projections about Drew Lock? You hope Drew Lock is going to make be a successful quarterback?
I've seen Drew Lock on the field in that offense. I haven't seen any of these even free agent additions.
Have you seen Jerry Jeudy? Jerry Jeudy?
I'm not that, bro. We're talking about Drew Lock is the thing here about the stacking the box on the second quarterback. I've seen him in the offense. Okay. And a quarterback is more of a cog to how an offense runs than a wide receiver in terms of experience and getting new receivers acclimated to the playbook. The thing is, I haven't seen 90% of this defense we haven't seen in Flores' scheme yet, minus a few like a Van
Byron Jones,
a Landon Roberts, etc., McMillan.
Can Byron Jones not cover man-to-man?
Sure.
Can Xavier Howard not cover man-to-man?
Yeah, but I don't. But Xavier Howard. What Xavier Howard am I getting?
Well,
am I getting a post-injury Xavier Howard, or am I getting 2018 Howard? Again, questions, bro.
Well, I'm not saying there aren't any questions, and I'm assuming this is the assumption that Xavier Howard
is Ogba fully healthy coming off the edge in a system he hasn't played in yet.
Well, so what you're saying is you're not high on our team, right?
No. See, now you're trying to twist words, and you're trying.
No, I asked you a question.
You asked me, and then you said, okay. Like you answered it yourself. No, I'm not.
What? I can't say okay.
I'm not saying that. But to sit here and act like our defense doesn't have more questions to it in terms of what we're giving it credit for, I think is. I don't think it's I think that's being ignorant to the situation, bro. We haven't. At least I've seen Drew Lock run the offense that is implemented over there. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Whether it's a 5-game sample or not. Now, there's certain Byron Jones. I haven't seen him. And Brian, do I think he's going to be successful? Sure, 110%. Xavier Howard. I legitimately don't know what. In terms of durability and health, what level we're at, I don't know what form we're going to get. I've seen the preview videos, and they look promising. And if he's anywhere near the 2018 form, and he's our number 2 guy, cool. He's going to be a stud if that's the case. But there's
we talked. This is
the only new addition I can fully trust. Okay, that's been made through free agency or the draft is Kyle Van Noy. And that's just because of his experience with Flores, his experience with the scheme, Now, do I think certain guys, do I project them to be good? Sure, of course. But there's questions still, you know what I mean? So
listen. I'm not saying, listen, this is the assumption that Xavier Howard is healthy and he's returned. He doesn't even have to return really to Pro Bowl form, in my opinion, because he's not going to be facing the opposing team's number 1 guy like he was in the past. So again, that approach alone, we should see an increase in his production in terms of his ability to cover, okay? Because the talent level that he's facing is not number 1 caliber in theory. But you saw the improvement that this secondary overall had the last, 6-7 games of the season last year with dudes that was work again, like I said. They were brought in on for a workout on Friday, starting on Sunday. Was working at Lowe's the week before. So you insert 2 all-pro caliber pieces to your secondary, and all of a sudden, okay, you can make the assumption it's not that far-fetched to think, considering the players that you had at your disposal last year, and you insert 2 pieces like this, a first-round pick, in addition to Nick Needham, how well he played last year, guarding the opposing team's number 1 wide receivers for the second half of the season last year. Why is that? I don't understand why is that such a big question mark to think the production overall from the secondary can't be that much higher. I don't understand that. Because
I feel like one of the factors I'm taking into account that won't be there this year, that no matter how much someone tries to argue me on this, it just won't be there this year, is, we knocked the guys that, they picked up from Lowe's or Home Depot that were stocking shelves, and they pick them up on a Friday, they were starting on a Sunday. The one thing they had that these all pros and these Pro Bowls and these guys who've got paid don't have is that hunger and that dog fight, because they're fighting literally for the next day to be on the roster. That's the only thing. And, and usually when you get that dog fight in you, plays get made because adrenaline alone, you're performing at. Some of these guys perform at levels that people didn't expect. I mean, you can look through our secondary last year, aside from a few, the majority of people out there didn't expect much from a Nick Needham, but he had that dog in him, man. And I think it'll be back this year for a guy like Nick Needham because he's getting no respect and everyone's forgetting about him. I think not you or I or Jason or such, but I think a lot of people are forgetting about him because of a Noah Benogany getting drafted at 30 and people automatically assuming he's the number 3 guy right now. So that's the one thing that I can say that I don't think our secondary will have like it did last year, and that's that hunger to because you literally have to like you're fighting for your next day on the squad.
I disagree. You have potentially a motivated Xavier Howard coming off the tumultuous season and off season that he had. Okay, his motivation should be at an all-time high. Coming back in just the Miami Dolphins going out and bringing in a player of Byron Jones' caliber should motivate him that much more to prove Dolphin fans, I'm still that dude. I don't care who they brought in. I'm still that dude. I've been here 4 years. I'm still that guy. His motivation should be through the roof. He should have an enormous chip on his shoulder. Nick Needham will come back. I guarantee, bro, everybody's forgetting, like you just said, everyone for the most part is forgetting about him because they bring in a first-round talent like this kid, Noah Benogany. Okay? His motivation should be through the roof. Byron Jones, his contract alone, him conducting himself as the professional that he has been since he's been in this league, this dude is gonna be motivated. I don't buy that for one bit. You got Noah Benogany coming in, eager to prove himself as well. No, I'm not subscribing to that channel. I think the hunger, the motivation will be there for this secondary. The only question mark, and it's legitimate, it's 100% legitimate is Xavier Howard's durability. That's it. But again, in terms of motivation, hunger, it's going to be there, bro. I'm not subscribing to that channel.
I'm not. When you got a room full of guys fighting for their next day and they're like not even just the NFL, but their livelihood.
Okay.
That's a hunger. That's a different level, man. So that's what I'm going to say for that.
Okay.
So, I mean, X can be motivated to prove, some fans or critics wrong. At the end of the day, he's still making over $15 million a year. At the end of the day, he's still got a couple years left on his contract. And at the end of the day, he's still got a guaranteed starting role in the NFL. So that's a difference. Now, is that to say there's going to be they're not going to be fully invested and they're just going to be out there? I'm not saying that at all. I'm just talking about there's levels to this ish, and I just think that's a different level in terms of what we were seeing last year, especially when Nick Needham, when people were going down around him, he was like, and the number one corner role kind of got thrown on his shoulder, man. So
and also, I don't think Flores is not going to tolerate that. If you're not out here running around with your hair on fire, he will not. I don't care what kind of contract you have. He will not tolerate that. You're behind. We'll go to the bench. So at the end of the day, bro, there's pride involved with these players, especially these established players. There's pride, a heightened level of pride involved, that they take their craft as serious as possible, bro. They want to get out there and show the world. Egos as well. They want to show the world and continuously show the world who they are, what type of individual, what type of players they are. So no, I don't anticipate that one bit. There be a less in terms of hunger and motivation. Oh no. To me, it went up 2 notches by this first round addition we made, and as well as Byron Jones. The competition, the motivation, whatever you want to call it, has gone up 2 notches, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I don't anticipate that being an issue at all.
Agree to disagree on that one.
And that's fine. Bro.
So the next one, the last one before we get out of here, because we're already at about an hour and 35 minutes. The rushing attack that'll pose a challenge. The last one we identified is the Las Vegas Raiders. When you look at them, not only do they have a great offensive line, when you go look at, Roddy Hudson, Richie Incognito, your Denzel Goods, your Gabe Jacksons, your Trent Browns, not only do they have that, they have a great tight end and Darren Waller, one of the breakout player last year, one of the more exciting guys to watch at that position. They added Jason Witten. They have one of the better fullbacks in the league in Alec Ingold. And he's a great run blocker as well. And then when you go to the actual running room, you got Jalen Richard, who's been in that system for years now. You got Josh Jacobs, who before he got injured, a lot of people thought he was the head front runner for Rookie of the Year. They went out and they got that gimmick player that I talked about on our running back big board months ago, Lynn Bowden Jr. out of Kentucky, where you can line him up at halfback, you can line him up receiver. I actually have him in my dynasty league. They also added Devontae Booker, the former Denver Bronco, as well. So that running back room's pretty freaking loaded. When you look at the talent, they have a really good run blocking fullback, but they also have a really solid. Darren Waller's a pretty good run blocker too, but they also have a really solid offensive line, man. This is a team. It's crazy because my 2 dark horses for the wild card are basically the Las Vegas Raiders and the Denver Broncos, just because I just like how these teams are being built. Me and you talked privately about how amazing it is that a guy like Mike Mayock came down and built this team, and we talked about how highly we respected him and his evaluations, and to now see those evaluations he had turn, the fruits of his labor of those evaluations actually turn into a good roster on paper and on the field. It's kind of crazy to see that happen, and you talked about a little bit about how John Gruden, how he adapted his old school ways while he was sitting in the booth. He took time to learn how the game was changing and the way the game was going. And now he's kind of taken a little bit of his old school coaching ways and blended them with the new style of coaching he's somewhat learned while he was in the booth. And it's kind of turned into a recipe. We won't get into the players, but, when you add in the draft picks that they've turned the Khalil Mack trade into so far too, they've done a fantastic job with that as well.
I agree.
So, this is a competent team. Can Derek Carr, if Derek Carr can find even somewhat of a semblance of that MVP season he had, kind of falling into the similar likes of a Carson Palmer or a Carson Wentz, where, Carson Palmer, when he got hurt in that AFC I believe it's a wild card divisional game against Pittsburgh, they had a team that could have gone to the Super Bowl. Wentz was having an MVP season. He got that injury. Derek Carr got that injury, having an MVP-like season, and all those guys didn't really find their form. Wentz is still really good. Carson Palmer went on to have a really good, respectable career in Arizona and such after the fact. But Derek Carr has never been able to even sniff getting back to the realm of what he was, and that when he was in that MVP form a couple years ago before he had that injury. So if he can find some kind of a semblance when you look what they've added in the draft with Ruggs and such, man, this is a team, Brian Edwards too. This is a team, bro, where running the football alone, they might be a serious problem for not just us, but a lot of teams, even in their own division.
We talked about this privately. I think it was CBS conducted a poll, and they rated the Raiders having the number one offensive line in all of football. I think that was it CBS? We talked about this a couple of days ago, I thought.
I don't remember.
I think it was CBS. It was one of these media outlets had rated their offensive line number one in all of football. But yeah, man, this team would probably be third, maybe even two on my list in terms of the talent level that they have 1 through 5 on their offensive line. You're talking about Trent Brown, one of the top right tackles in the league. Gabe Jackson has been an underrated guard, very productive guard for a long time in this league. Rodney Hudson, you can make a legitimate argument that he's a top 3 center and has been consistent since he's been in the National Football League, bro. I mean, and if they bring, I don't know if they're going to bring Richie. Don't sleep
on Denzel Good and Eric Kush and Richie Incognito for depth. In that
absolutely. Incognito, exactly, bro. Yeah. So this is talent up and down this offensive line. Very big physically. You look at the athletic profile of these guys. I mean, 325 is the average weight. I think, don't quote me on that, but at least 325. I mean, these guys are heavy, physical, power running team. Josh Jacobs, fantastic rookie season last year. They're definitely concerned.
Yeah, Trent Brown, 380 pounds.
Yeah, physically imposing offensive line. Gabe Jackson is like 340, I think. 335. Yeah. Rodney Hudson goes about 330. Yeah.
No, 300. Big, sorry. 300, my bad.
Big. Well, we know how big and powerful Rich Incognito is.
Yeah, and they drafted that big 330-pound guard, John Simpson, out of Clemson.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
Really good. Denzel Good is 345.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're just
that size alone, bro. That size alone. I mean, it's intimidating. It's imposing. And John Gruden, which is extremely important. He's shown the willingness to lean on that running game. You know what I mean?
And get Colton Miller, their other tackle. Not enough people talk about him. He's really good too, bro.
Right. You're absolutely correct.
They're like they're what the Dallas Cowboys were 3 or 4 years ago now.
Yeah. And then you mentioned the addition of Jason Witten. He might not be the passing threat that he was from maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, but he's always been he's always been a phenomenal run blocker since he's been in the league. And again, he's another, he's a tight end. I realize that, but he's lacking having an extra tackle out there in terms of in the running game. So yeah, this is a definite concern. They would be, like I said, they would be probably third on my list, maybe even second, in terms of overall talent that they have. And just the style, that power, physically imposing offensive line. Because I told you and I'll say it again, That interior is a concern. It really is, in my opinion.
And hey, barring any terrible injuries, when we see them in week, in the second last week of the season, they could very well be a wild card team in playoff mode.
Oh,
and they could be rolling. So
definitely. If Derek Carr, I'm gonna tell you like this: if they could establish a consistent vertical threat with the addition of Henry Ruggs and Tyrell Williams, if Derek Carr, and I think it's a mindset with him, because this kid, in terms of arm talent, you can make a legitimate argument that this kid is as talented as anybody in the league almost. Not named Patrick Mahomes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if he gets back, like you said, to that, to that MVP form,
some kind of form of it, even some kind.
Yeah. And he actually consistently threatens teams vertically, but you have these two speed elements, on the boundaries now. So if he does that and he's consistent at that this year, he improves off the previous, 2-3 years, man, Oakland could be a serious problem. Serious.
Because you talked about it. If you go back and you watch his game before the injury to his game and compare it to his game after the injury, you can see the hesitation and the reluctance in his game just to push the ball, man.
Yep, absolutely. So, and I think it's a mental issue with him.
Yeah, agreed.
But it's definitely not talent. Definitely never has been talent with him or his brother, really. Yeah. With him or his brother. But, yeah, man, it's a concern for sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, man, those are the 5 teams we've identified, guys, that we think on the schedule for 2020 are going to pose a bit of a challenge for the Dolphins. And you see, we agree and disagree on every team, and not every team, but some of these teams is varying degree of difficulty for the Miami Dolphins. But, yeah, man, other than that, right now EM's getting lost in the abyss of blackness. Is there anything else you want to add? And again, smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't, guys. If you'd like to donate to the channel, paypal.me/Phinside. And become a Phinside, the NFL patron. There's 4 different levels, $5, $10, $15, $20, www.patreon.com/Phinside, the NFL. All the links are in the description below. And remember to hit that like button because it does help with the algorithm. And guys, subscribe. I believe we're at about 218 subscribers right now. 918 subscribers. So we're only 82 away from being able to give away a Tua Tagovailoa jersey to you guys. So, yeah, anything else you want to add before we keep it moving?
No, man, it was a very good show. Good spirited debate.
Yes, sir.
Quick question though, you mad at me, bro? Yeah. You mad at me, homie?
No, I'm hungry.
I'm kidding, bro. I got nothing but love for you, homie. But yeah, another good show, man. Appreciate everybody coming out again. Love you guys. Love and appreciate everybody. All the love and support again. Yeah, man, we just can't wait for the season to start. Like we talked about that COVID-19 issue. More than likely, it's going to be an issue. And all of these restrictions looks like they'll be implemented at some point. But us as, our fan base, us as fans, we just got to be patient, Just let the NFL do what they do. Let them, implement, these safety procedures and let it play out. If it ensures us a season, that's ultimate. That's what everybody wants at the end of the day. Yeah. Let it play out. It's going to be difficult for all of us, but let it play out, and hopefully we'll have a season. But, yeah, man, another one good on the books. And
guys, a couple things I want to just say before we get out of here, too. We're not going to be back on Wednesday. EM's going to be out of commission Wednesday and Thursday, really. We'll be back Friday night, and we'll look at what defenses we think are going to pose the biggest challenges for this Miami offense. And then on top of that, guys, next week, we got really something special in the works for you guys. It's going to make Avengers Endgame look like Polly Pocket. So y'all are gonna like that collab that we got in the works for next week. And then, guys, another thing too, go to finmaniacs.com. Check out our boy Jason Sarney's latest podcast. Your boy Reason is on it. We talked about the cornerback room. We talked some Tua. We talked about how this league could potentially, we could only be carrying 70 or 75 players headed in to training camp. So go check that out. We also talk about who we think we might be affected in that. Guys, tomorrow, because you're not going to hear from me, on YouTube at least tomorrow, I'll be recording another podcast with the Fanatics Network. And they're on iTunes, Spotify, and all that such. And that should be out Wednesday. So be on the lookout for that. If you're on Twitter, Fanatics Network, I'll be on their show. It'll be coming out Wednesday. We got some good things we're going to be talking about. But like I said, we'll probably be back Friday, guys. And then next week, back to the usual Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then it's looking like on Friday. Oh, actually, you know what, guys? We're not going to be doing the defense. What defenses we think are going to pose a challenge for the offense on Friday. We're going to be doing Madden. It's going to look like it's going to be either EM versus ball game.
I doubt it.
Or it's going to be EM versus one of our subscribers who's in the comments. I saw him earlier, Kills YT. But Kills YT is first up in the queue.
That dude again, man. Really?
So it's going to be either ball game or him. And then on Monday, we'll get into which rushing attacks we think are going to pose a challenge. And then Wednesday is probably looking like when we're going to be dropping that collab for all of you guys. And you're all going to want it because there's going to be some decent names in the Dolphin community that are going to be involved in that. So, guys, be on the lookout for that. Other than that, anything else you want to say, Ian?
Y'all already know what it is. All day, every day. I know y'all can't see me right now, but all day, every day, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen.
And as always, guys, we appreciate you all for coming through. And let's hit the intro as the outro while we get out of here. So, guys, fins up. Y'all already know what it is. We'll see you at the end of the week. Good night, everybody, and we hope y'all have...
Y'all be safe. Y'all be good.